a podcast syndicate production. Each of us runs a different pace in life.
As a millennial or someone coming of age into adulthood, it's just a lot of things to process, and a lot of things that you want can't happen now because a lot of things are
In love, friendships, and our own self-worth. As we embark on these journeys, we hold the hope to learn a little more each day.
why can't I have whatever they have? And oftentimes I find myself comparing my progress, comparing what I have with other people, even like in the slyest way. It seems like it's
As we survive and strive to be stronger.
You are really sure and aware of your being as a person and your truth, your core, your everything. Anything that you put out in the table won't be used against you.
So I'd like to welcome you all to love, growth, and freedom.
the different kinds of love that we could see in this world, and on the idea of how love is crazy and how love has different meanings for all of us.
A podcast that believes in love, inspires growth, and advocates freedom. Let me be your friend, your guide, as we all ride the crazy adventure called life. Powered by Guerrilla Podcast Syndicate.
Hey guys, welcome back to Love, Growth, and Freedom with Adrian Duarte. I want to say again, thank you for dropping by on this podcast. And today, our topic is going to be about how do we trust and be grateful for the process with Bridge Lee, founder of Pete and Alia, and also he is a content creator, a lifestyle content creator that will be joining us today. Ayan. Hi Bridge, how have you been doing?
Hi. So okay naman. Right now I'm very busy with schoolwork, but also of course, like you mentioned, Pete and Alia, and some brands have contacted me for contents as well. So a lot has been going on, but I'm so glad to be here in this podcast.
Oh, thank you so much. And I invited you specifically today because I want everyone to know about trusting the process and being able to be grateful for the experiences that we go through as we move on to our goals. And one of the goals of the episode for today is that we have to understand that things happen and all we could do is have faith in whatever it is going through. So, whatever it is, trusting the process and understanding that the processes that we're going to go through and the ups and downs and everything are part of it. And we will learn how to get over self-doubt that comes our way as we go try and reach our goals, practice to be grateful in the process, and also to enjoy the beauty of the journey. Do you agree that we're so hooked up with the whole idea of the success and the goals that we want, at in the middle of it, we forget that the journey is actually one of the most beautiful parts of it?
Yes, I do agree because you know what? I'm for sure what I thought I'd be in the future is definitely not where I'm headed right now. And it's not because I switched goals or anything, but rather the journey dictated eventually that's not the goal anymore. So when you decide to focus too much on the goal, you will be disappointed that a lot of your goals are actually not what's going to happen. But you should enjoy the process, as you mentioned, because the process is what's really happening. And a lot of the times, your successes are also part of the process. So, with the process, of course, it's just learning. And I guess we'll discuss about that later. But I wanted to touch up on the idea that, like you mentioned, we need to enjoy the little successes in life that comes with the journey, as well as the learning process going to the goal.
All right. Yeah, thank you for that. So for you, what is trusting the process for you? What is your specific, or what are the things that you are working on trusting as you go through all your goals this year, or whatever goals that you've set for yourself? How do you do that for yourself?
Ayun nga. So actually, with everything in my life, actually, I don't really know what I'm doing. I kind of just eyeball things or just decide, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And then along the process, I kind of just learn it as I go. So like, for example, me as a gymnast or a person who goes to the gym, I did not know anything about that at first. I just kind of decided, okay, I'm going to get a membership. And then I went there and then I got a trainer and then that's it. From there on, I started to learn a lot. And then so goes well with my schoolwork as well. I remember the first day of school, I was thinking everybody would be so much better than me. But look at me now. I'm the top one of the whole batch, actually. So I'm the best at what I do, at least first education wise. And with regards to Pete and Alia, at first we it evolved. Okay, it did not start as solid perfume. It started with actually a liquid perfume, but we saw a lot of different things that we could do, especially for the Philippines and the people we know, and what are different problems. So we learned. So again, like I said, trusting the process is very important because at first you really don't know, and you will never know until you actually do it. So trusting the process is important because you can never make a foolproof plan, but at least when you start, you will get somewhere.
Exactly. Well, that's a very good story, telling us that you didn't really like have this, oh, this is what I'm going to be and I'm going to do. You really just trusted. You went through the process. You did not hold back from the process and
Mm-mm.
resist the whole thing that's been changing right in front of you. With all that, what are the challenges for you when you are trying to tell yourself to trust the process? What makes it hard for you to trust the process?
Well, of course, um, trusting the process would mean trusting even if you don't know where it's actually leading. So, of course, like Pete and Alia, for example, there are days. Okay, as much as possible, we need to put content out. Of course, as a brand, you need to stay relevant. And to stay relevant, you need to always continuously put out content. And I guess as another content creator, you'd know that. But the problem is obviously not every day do we have a content to post. So trusting the process would mean like hoping tomorrow somebody would rate our product so that we can talk about it. Or hoping that tomorrow the sun will be nice so that I could take pictures of the products. Or hoping that tomorrow there'll be another time to do work. But that's just me being philosophical about this. But on a more technical sense, trusting the process would also mean that um, trusting other people's opinions as well, which is difficult for me because, of course, as a person, I have my own opinions. But when something doesn't work out for me, we need to understand that other people has opinions that might work for you. So that's also difficult.
Definitely agree and resonate with that. You with all that, you just what you do is you just keep doing you, right? Do what you need to do what you're supposed to do. You feel for you actually, and then hope for the best that things just work out well for you and that people recognize the things that you have been putting out there as a content creator, right? So mostly the things that you do out there is you hope that people see it. You just really do. And when you're aligned with your goals and aligned with the things you do, it's very, very helpful and you would see results and it will project to all of those. As you move on forward, there are some ways that you could trust the process. On my end, what I do is I try to be as resilient as possible in understanding the process, having a mindset that there are not a lot of things that we could control in our lives and just surrendering to the little control that I have and focusing on the things that I could work on. What about you? What is it for you? How do you try to practice your resiliency in situations like these?
I think the idea of being resilient would not only wait lang ha. Kasi there are two ways to say resilient, no? One resilient is that you'll always stay happy. So even if, let's say you fail today, wala lang yan. I can
I
get back,
see.
And then there's another one, which is the perfect idea of it, which is you have a plan B. So me as a idealistically, I would always have a plan B. Kunyari, what if my rooms for my design plate? Again, I'm an architecture student, so what if my rooms don't fit? What can I do to make sure that I can still fulfill the requirements? So idealistically, I'd have something that's more luxurious in idea. But what if it doesn't work? I can just step down and then maybe go for another substitute. So that's just an example. But I've also learned in the process that you need to stay happy even if your ideas don't work. Because, in a day, there's 24 hours. And if you are sad because of that 1 hour that you failed, the rest of the 23 hours would be useless, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
So you need to be resilient so that you can keep going with your work, so that you can be successful at least with that 23 hours of the day.
Exactly. Well, because again, there are a lot of things that we can control in our lives, right? Like, what will happen in a day won't happen for you again on the other day. But you have to keep in mind when you try to do a lot of these things and the goals you reach for, being resilient in all those, having plan A, B, C, whatever, how many plans you have, knowing that you have another step for you to do, even if the other one fails. And be
Mm-mm.
resilient enough to understand that it's not always going to go your way and try to be okay with it.
Mm-mm.
Trust the process. Trust that this failure will lead you to that other door for your success. Right?
Yes,
Uh,
and life will go on, you know. Life will
yeah.
go on. So kahit na you don't have this one, so what? There's other wins. Choose your
Yeah.
battles, and if it's not for you, then give it to someone else.
Yeah. Okay. So ito, the one of the few questions I'd also ask: what were the things that you've learned as you trust the process? How did you? What were the lessons you've learned when you found faith in yourself and in the process that you're going through with everything? What are the things that you've learned?
Well, like I've said, that I learned that trusting the process would mean I have to just completely start from scratch in my head, at least. Kumbaga, I have my own talents and I know already some things. Then yes, I can learn those. I can use those. But there will be a lot of things that I don't know. So I need to accept the fact that I need to learn those. Because what I learned in the process is that, my God, there's so many things to learn in life. You think you
Yeah.
know something, but you don't. So trusting the process means you have to accept other lessons in life as well. Things that's not even part of your circle. Things that you do not even know you have to learn, or things that were not even part of your, kumbaga, not even remotely in your brain. Because there are some things that you learned, but you kind of knew from the start. And then there are other things that you learned that you didn't even know existed. So
Yeah.
even those you have to learn.
Definitely. So yeah, those are it's like emptying your cup to understand other things in the world because we don't know everything, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. On on that note though, what are the toughest lessons you're thankful for as you work towards everything that you've been doing now? What is the toughest lesson?
Okay, I was waiting for this question because related to that, I want to say the toughest thing is to know lang that you don't know everything and not everything is definitely for you. There are It's really tough for me to, because like I said, I've achieved so many things in maybe three
Yeah.
years that I never thought I would ever achieve. I never thought I would be for straight 3 years. I am the top student of the batch. I never knew that one day I would be the a co-founder of a company that's doing well for the first 3 months of its launch, as well as I would have never known that I would go to the gym, right? But having achieved all of this, it seems like my life is perfect, and I always feel like I would get whatever I want. You know what I mean? Since I've been getting those, and most times it does work, but when it doesn't, I feel so bad. And there are things that people don't have in life, and I would feel sad because I did not get it. When in reality, not no one really gets it. If I make sense.
Yeah, nobody really
So
gets what they really, really want in life. They really have to work for some things, and most of it
yeah.
actually.
So technically, for me to complain about not getting something is a big privilege. Kumbaga, my privilege is oozing out. So
Yeah.
I need to remember that all of the things I'm getting are blessings. All of the things I'm getting are privilege. And if I don't get it, I need to accept that not everything is for me. And even if I tried 5 times and it still doesn't work, let it go. Maybe it's somebody else's win. You know what I mean?
I get it. Yeah. I mean, that's also a tough lesson, especially if again, you've said something to celebrate. Good job on the 3 consecutive years being top in your batch. That means a lot. And I can't wait to see more of your work out there. So hopefully I'll reach out to you and whenever I get the money to make my own house or whatever that is. But it's really just it is true when you're used to like not really getting what you wanted, but it's you're used to some people when you see like you've always achieved, you've always done this, and when tough time, when whatever, when tough things come, you kind of just think that maybe you're not, it gives you that doubt too. Maybe you're not as good as you think you are. But in reality, you're just
You're the
not,
same.
yeah, you're just fine. You're just not good at this one. But that doesn't mean you're defined by your whole entirety that that's you, you know? But
Hindi, tsaka sometimes you lose what you already had, but that's okay because there are days talaga you're not yourself. So
exactly. So how
you
do you
can't
deal with
judge
that?
your entire
Yeah.
me not yan katulad niyan, I'm not able to work out as well as when I was back in the gym or like right now because it's quite okay. I'm the kind of person talaga that needs to have barriers, physical barriers. So
Yeah.
my house is my house, the school is the school, and of course
Mm.
in between
The gym
school
is the
there's yung lunch
gym.
break and then the gym is the gym.
Hmm.
So when I'm at the gym, I don't think about my school. So I'm able to truly focus 100% at the gym. Now because everything is quarantined and everything is at home, I'm hate-hate yung brain ko basically. So
Yeah.
with that said, I it's really hard to deal with that. But what I try to do is that I allot time for everything. And then obviously there are deadlines for things now. Like for example, this podcast or the my other contents which are not society standards are not as important as, of course, my education. But I treat everything equally, and I have to make sure, okay, this deadline gets met, this deadline gets met. So it's really time management and segregating. And if barriers is what's important to me, I will go to my bedroom for something else, and I will go downstairs for schoolwork, for example.
Well, that's good that you have this priority of time, but I agree with you. During this pandemic, there is no division to a lot of the things you do that makes it really, really challenging for us to keep our mental ground and mental health at a good pace. But again, focusing on like the things I'm trusting the process, one thing that you could also do is you embrace the unknown, which you already told us earlier that there are things that you don't know, and you have to embrace that. You
Mm-hmm.
have to embody that you don't know this thing, you don't know some of this, and you have to learn it. You really have to unlearn some stuff to learn some new things
Mm-hmm.
and let new knowledge come in. What about this one? How are you able to focus on your purpose of why you're doing everything? Because that's also one way to be able to trust and have faith in your process and be grateful for your process. So focusing on your purpose. How do you get back to focusing on why you're doing everything that you're doing?
So I always, okay, kasi ang dami ko kasi ginagawa, no? Pero kasi
Yeah.
all of them kind of create a person, which is me, no? Call me
Mm-mm.
vain, pero bata pa ako, I've always wanted to have a good body, for example.
Mm-mm.
Or bata pa ako, I've always wanted to look good. And that's not just physical wise, but also, of course, my brain. So I want to be intelligent as well. And so that's basically my purpose. But of course, along the way, things like helping others, stuff like that, became part of my goal. So like I said, retrusting the process means also understanding that your goals kind of change, but then the core remains the same. And I've always wanted to be a holistic kind of person that I'm able to help others also because I am already helped by myself. So I always look back to the idea na ba't nga ba ako pumasok sa architecture?
Yeah.
Because number one, I'm good at this. And when you're good at something, that your talent can be shared. It's very important to me that the Philippines
Mm-hmm.
becomes this beautiful place for everybody for the future. So that's why I want to be in architecture. But in terms of my content creating, that one naman is for me because I like making content for some reason. Back then in 2013, I did not know what content creating was, but I was already doing that back in 2013.
Mm-mm.
And I would make pictures of products and myself and stuff like that. And people would call that useless, but look at everybody doing that now. So again,
Exactly.
trusting the process, I just kept doing what I love. Yeah. And at the end of the day, it's the passion talaga. And if you like something, keep doing it. Nobody can tell you it's useless. Why right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It cannot be
Like
useless. So but then there is kasi
all the little things that you do mean something, right? Like that's what most of it. People have to understand that in the process of reaching your goals, those little wins, those little steps that you take towards them are gonna cause a ripple effect of everything. It's gonna fall into place one day, diba?
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Oo, tsaka like I always tell people kasi everybody's equal, no? Pero why is it that when we look at everybody, parang there are levels. Like, okay, dito na siya, isa nandito. Why? It's because people don't value other talents as much as other talents. Like, kunyari, when you're good at mathematics versus when you're good at art, people think mathematics is so much more important than art. That is so not true. It's just
Mhm.
society that decides that. So if
Exactly.
you decide that art is your thing, just decide to do it. You know what I mean? Trust the process. And if monetizing is the problem, look for a way to monetize it. I never said it was easy. But like you said, trusting the process is not easy. And you really have to decide, okay, if this is the life I'm gonna choose because it makes me happy, you need to trust the process that there will be days na you're not gonna be able to eat, no? Kasi you're not
Mm-mm.
earning enough or you're not gonna be loved by everybody. But there will be people who will love you. So
Exactly.
the people that do love you, cherish them, focus on them, focus on your
Oh,
happiness.
well, that's beautiful, which is true. I like what you said over there. So if it is something that you want to do, it's a leap of faith to just go do what you really want to do and what you're passionate about. But before we move on to the next questions, let's have a break from the episode. I'll see you again later, lovies.
Like what you hear so far? Make sure you never miss a show by clicking the subscribe button now. This podcast is made possible by listeners like you. Thank you for your support. Now, back to the show.
Welcome back to the show, lovies. Thank you for staying tuned with us as we talk about how do you trust and be grateful for the processes of life that we have here today. So, Bridge, the time that we were talking about, we have been tackling a lot of things already about trusting the process, choosing your passion, and focusing on what you're really, really good at. Here is one question that I would want to know. Do you still find it hard to have faith that everything will turn out well for you? Because, you've already worked it out, right? You've already tried to learn to trust the process. Do you still find it hard to keep trusting the process? And how do you work through it? How
Alam
do you
mo,
work through those doubts? Go.
mm-mm, mm. You know, this is the perfect question right now because I'm in the middle of so many things. And right now, talaga, I can't really see the end of things. Like, my design seems like it's not, my designs for school, it seems like it's never gonna end. You know what I mean? It just keeps
Yeah.
going and going. And then there are days talaga I feel like, oh my God, I'm not gonna be able to pass this on time. Like I've had a lot of late wherein I'm like 5 days late, for example. That's a long time to be late, you know what I mean? But in the end of the day, I kind of step back. And then I think, if say for example, I do not pass this, what's the worst thing that could happen? No? I will still have a family I go back to. I will still have my friends. I will have everything that's in this room and so much more. And call me privileged, but this is for the people who can say it. You still have the many things that you have now. You go into this life empty handed. The worst thing that could happen is you go back empty handed as well. So trusting the process means just accepting that what you are now, it will forever be you. But if you actually succeed, you'll be more. And there is no actually going less. I hope I made
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, you did. So it's like you've got everything to gain and nothing to lose. And if
But
you
nothing to
lose,
lose.
yeah, everything else to gain. Yeah, it's a really tough thing, Not everybody has the strength and the courage to actually jump and whatever. And yeah, you were right with, well, it's not always the case for everybody, but if you've seen other people who has way less than you jump the gun, really just go for whatever they dream of, they really get it there. They really go far because they really worked for it. They really just did everything in their power to do so. Yeah, with all that, I've just been so happy to have you in this episode because it was very, very entertaining and also informative to learn about all the processes and all the things that you're going through as How young are you again, Bridge? You're very young, right? You're
Yeah, I'm like 21 lang talaga.
See, so he's 21. He's taking architecture in UST, and he is also a co-founder of Pete and Ale and does content creating. A lot of people may think that it's easy content creating, doing a brand. It's so easy nowadays. It is if you look at it,
Mm-mm.
because they make it seem easy. So having you here, talking to you about all those trusting the process, and so cool though because you still have a long way to go. You still have a lot of things to process and trust as you go through your journey of life. And also, it's just so humanizing to see that even someone who is doing a lot already right now still struggle with having that faith in the things that they do. It means for you, lovies, you don't really have to know where you're going as of the moment. It doesn't really mean that you have to be big overnight because Rome wasn't built in a day. You guys have to work through everything. You have to align
True.
yourself
Mm-mm.
to whatever you're doing. So, Bridge, can you tell us just one last note for everybody? Can you tell us how you keep yourself in line with all the things that you do? Like, your how do you prioritize? What were your tips to do that? And give us a message to the people who are listening in this episode after that. So, give us your tips of productivity and prioritizing your everything. So, can you tell us more about that?
Kasi, I just wanted to touch up on what you were saying kanina about the idea of content creating and how easy it looks, no? True enough, much like a graphic designer, for example, the idea of
Yeah.
graphic designing is easy, but it's not really just, yes, it is clicking buttons and yes, it is just drawing digitally, but more than that, it's the concept of the whole thing that's difficult. Having to sit down and then think of an idea. The idea of content creating is very similar. It's difficult because you have to conceptualize, but on top of that, you're also a human being. So the idea of what people don't understand with content creators is that they don't just always sit down and decide, okay, I'm gonna make content today. You also have a family to attend, diba? We also have
Yes.
school if you're a student, or you have actual work to go to. So imagine you only have 24 hours a day. How are you going to spend it? So with in line with your question, you really have to decide, okay, what's important to you and list it down, because obviously my priorities are not going to be same with yours. And if
Yeah.
I tell you, okay, you have to prioritize school first, and then your content creating, and then your gym, I think that would be unfair of me to say, because there are people who believe that content creating is more important than school, and I think that's valid as well. So if school is still important to you, then make sure school is part of your priorities. That means in that 24 hours, you need to allot at least 2 hours for school, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's always just allotting the time based on your priorities, because at the end of the day, you only have 24 hours. And if you spend literally 15 hours deciding, should I do school today or should I do content creating today, you've wasted 15 hours. So take that 1 hour in the morning to write down everything you need to do and then stick with it. Because at the end of the day, you're still human. And if again, you don't finish anything, you have your parents to cry to. You have your sister to cry to. You still have your whatever it is. So
That's very helpful. So, guys, if you guys want to, like, prioritize your life, what he did was an hour a day to set what you're going to have to do within the day. So, you would also be conscious and aware of the things that you might miss on what you're doing. That's very, very helpful on productivity. Thank you. Thank you, Bridge. Thank you so much for all the tips here. And thank you for inspiring us with your story. For someone as young as you, and I understand that it's very pressuring in this world. A lot of things are so happening so fast, no? I would want to have or ask a message from you to our listeners in this episode. And you can also tell them where we could follow you and see more of your content.
yeah. So I want to say muna the message, no, before I
Yes.
plug my Instagram.
Yes.
So one thing I want to tell everybody is that one thing I've learned from being this successful, when you call me successful, no, is that you don't actually have to be successful right now. I've talked to a lot of older people, and they say, like people that I believe are successful, and they say, you don't have to actually, what do you call this, get everything in your 20s. All of us are so conscious about that. The idea of filling up your resume so that I get into my favorite company. You don't need to do that. start small. If because the worst thing that could happen is that you actually don't fill up your resume, and then now you're crying about that idea, and the problem is now you're crying, you're wasting more time. So remember, trusting the process means also that it may take time. That
Mhm.
just because there's a yes and no doesn't mean wait, right? What if it's really for you? So trusting the process takes time, and you just have to trust the process. Ayan.
Yeah.
So you can find me in Instagram. So my username is at the Bridgely because someone took Bridgely na. So you just put a the before my name.
Yeah.
And you can also follow Pete and Alia, Pete.alia.
Yeah.
Ayan.
Well, thank you. That was a wonderful message. That is true. It takes time and you really just have to keep going. Either way, the yes or no's that happens in your life will be part of the journey. And these parts are something that you got to stay and listen and understand and know the lessons that come from it. And you'll understand why it had to happen. You'll have to understand too what are the things that you have to
Mm.
be grateful for having these things happen. So again, I would like to thank all of you lovies for listening to us in this episode. Thank you, Bridge, for joining us on this episode. So we'll see you all again, lovies, soon.
You enjoyed this episode? Be sure to subscribe so you're notified when a new episode is posted in Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or via RSS. While you're at it, if you found value in this show, rate and review this podcast and share it with your friends. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. And if you want to know more, check out www.guerrillapodcast.com.au or guerrillapodcast.com.ph. A Guerrilla Podcast Syndicate production.